Part 1. What Marcus Guarded. Marcus grew up in Sundbyberg above a tram depot, falling asleep to the squeal of brakes and the murmur of dispatchers. His father was a signal tech who kept old schematics in a shoebox. His mother, a night nurse, who said cities only felt safe when their hidden routines were tended. Marcus believed them. He traded football for coding, learned how traffic lights negotiated right-of-way, and drifted naturally into infrastructure security. He liked machines that told the truth because they had no choice. Emma was different. She was a community nurse from Umeå who kept plants alive on windowsills that never saw full sun. She met Marcus at a transit drill where he was briefing responders on routing failovers. Afterward, she teased him for caring more about packet loss than people, and he laughed because she wasn't wrong. She stayed. With her, the city felt warmer. She'd tuck handwritten notes into his lunch about what she'd seen on her rounds make him look up from dashboards to watch ferries cut the harbor. Their first date was a ferry ride where she made him put his phone away and told him she liked how seriously he listened. They traded Snapchats on opposite shifts, small clips of rain on ambulance bays, of ferries sliding through fog, of the balcony plants she refused to let die. Tiny pings that said, "I'm still here." Their last quiet evening together was 3 weeks after their courthouse wedding in January 2025. City lights smeared by falling snow, Emma's head on his shoulder while they planned a summer without night shifts. 3 weeks after that, she died in a crash linked to a roading anomaly Marcus had quietly corrected the day before. An anomaly that should have prevented the collision, not caused it. The patrol report said instantaneous. The investigation never determined whether the fix failed, arrived too late, or worked exactly as designed. Marcus knew the exact line of code. It felt like hearing the city's heartbeat stop and realizing his hands were on the monitor. He opened their chat and saw their final snap streak, frozen mid-conversation. No one else knew. The uncertainty tunneled into him like a live wire until it burned everything else away. He buried himself in work. Not the cobblestones or the trams, the systems beneath them. Emergency routing tables, surveillance logic. Fail-safe protocols buried under Gamla where old stone confused modern signals. He knew those weaknesses because he was assigned to them, and because the city trusted him more than it trusted its own redundancy. He told himself that if Stockholm ever broke, he would hear it breathe differently. Since then, he worked nights in the central control room overlooking the rain-slicked arteries of the city. Monitors stacked like stained glass, each pane a live feed or a status heartbeat. The room hummed with recycled air and the faint sting of ozone. Outside, rain streaked down the glass, turning Stockholm's reflections into glitching ghosts. He told himself that the city was a patient, and he was its watcher. That would have to be enough. He didn't know yet that the city was about to return his attention with something he could not fix. The night it began, the rain sounded heavier than the weather feed suggested. Marcus listened. He thought he heard the city breathe differently. Part 2. The first snap. It was a routine night. Marcus was halfway through a systems audit, the kind of work that made hours vanish into spreadsheets and silent checks. He still kept Emma's chat thread pinned at the top of his phone out of habit. Old streaks, old clips of rain on ambulance bays, a ferry sliding through fog. He hadn't received a new snap in months. Deleting the thread would be like admitting she was really gone. He still opened it sometimes just to watch the little ghost icon sit still. At 2:13, the control room screens were an aurora of muted blues and greens. His phone buzzed once against the metal desk. He glanced down, expecting some maintenance alert or a colleague's shift handoff. Notification. Snapchat. From Emma. Timestamp current. He unlocked the screen. Black photo. Darkness, except for a faint vertical smear like a rain trail across a lens. Marcus stared at it longer than he should have. The rain outside hammered the windows as if insisting he answer. He did not open the snap. He let it sit in the notification shade like a landmine. He placed the phone face down. Another buzz. He flipped it back and the notification still glowed faintly, waiting. That's when he noticed the rain on the glass sounded in time with his heartbeat. He told himself he would ignore it. He knew already he wouldn't. Part 3. The order was wrong. Within 40 minutes, the phone had collected a string of unread snaps, all from Emma. He finally opened one, morning light across their kitchen table. Her voice saying, "God, Morgan, honey," a message from months ago. Another, her face in an elevator mirror at midnight asking, "How was your day?" A clip from a week before their wedding. Then another, a grainy dash cam angle. Emma's voice casual. "I'm driving to Dad's tonight, save me leftovers." That one should have been from the night she died. They were all out of order. A black screen followed, time-stamped 15 minutes in the future. The feed was wrong. The order was wrong. He filed a case with Snapchat support through a back channel used for law enforcement pings. Their engineers escalated. Support logs showed the messages originated from internal network, source redacted for security clearance. Only someone with admin privileges could trace further. To regular support, they appeared as ghost packets, data appearing without origin. Marcus refreshed the packet traces and watched the columns fill with redacted fields. He scrubbed through the videos. Some were from months before her death. Some could not have existed, Emma filming herself on a night she had been in the hospital. Except in this video she was at home, smiling into the lens, whispering, "You're late." He stared at the screen until the cafeteria coffee went cold. Behind him, the room full of monitors cycled through perfect order. Trains on time, traffic flowing, emergency lines quiet. Only his phone disobeyed sequence. When he closed his eyes, he heard the sound of the rain changing tempo like a buffering wheel. He placed the phone face down again. It buzzed. This time he opened the black screen. It was black because the camera had been covered. A finger moved away for a fraction of a second. The angle showed his own hands on the desk in the control room right now. Then the view snapped dark again. The timestamp matched the moment he blinked. Part 4. When the city entered the snaps. Hours later, the black screens changed. Marcus stepped out of the control room to chase signals on foot, hoping the dead zones in Gamla Stan would show him where the anomaly hid. The next snap he opened was rain-speckled stone. Brenda Tompton at 144, empty. Another showed the steep, narrow steps of Morton Trotzig's Grend at 202, rain combing the stairwell. Another captured Cookbrinken, closer to his apartment, the wet cobbles reflecting sodium light. Each clip was short, silent, and landed before he reached those spots, as if something was walking ahead of him and leaving markers. He ran correlation scripts. Nothing matched. The timestamps predicted his movement. The angles looked like someone stood exactly where he would stand. The rain on stone seemed to hiss in anticipation. The city had entered the snaps, or the snaps had entered the city. Marcus realized whatever anomaly had latched onto Emma's data was now using trusted pathways, routing redundancy, cached credentials, his own admin tokens, to move. It had chosen the old town because the stones confused signals. An anomaly could hide in noise there, weave through blind spots. He watched one clip of a lantern swinging in the alley wind, a breadcrumb. When he reached that corner later, the lantern hung still, but his phone buzzed on the last step. He opened the snap on impulse. The same lantern, now still, but in the lower frame a wet boot tread that matched the one he was about to leave. The snap was one step ahead of him, showing his next footprint before he made it. He paused, his foot midair. The rain struck his hood and felt like a counting metronome. He turned back toward the control room instead of heading home. The lantern proved the anomaly could anticipate and script his movement. The snaps arrived faster. The city was walking him in circles, keeping him out in the rain and on its schedule. Part 5. The Chase. Marcus stopped going home. He dozed in 15-minute snatches on a cot in a server closet, the fan noise masking the phantom buzz of incoming snaps. The anomaly did not care. The next wave came from outside his building on Västerlånggatan, rain cascading down the lens. Then from inside the stairwell, dim yellow light flickering, wet footprints leading upward. Then from his floor, camera low, the wet tread prints mirroring his own stride. Always closer, always silent. Emma never appeared in the images. Her absence was louder than any apparition. He tried leaving the phone behind. The snaps still appeared. They arrived in his account, in his backups, even when the device was powered off. He swapped SIMs, flashed firmware, cut power. A new snap arrived anyway, black screen, addressed to him. He thought about calling the police. Protocol said otherwise. Any outside report would route through emergency channels he helped design, the same trusted paths the anomaly was already wearing. Bringing police into a compromised network could accelerate the spread. Containment meant keeping it small, keeping it off official logs, keeping it on him. He rotated passwords, revoked tokens, rebuilt his device from bare metal. The city's infrastructure obeyed his commands. The snaps did not. They moved through whitelisted lanes like they were default traffic, riding trusted paths he'd built and couldn't shut. Marcus could not tell if this was an external attacker or something wearing Emma's metadata as skin. He returned to the control room, the only room he still trusted. Rain hammered the glass. Another snap buzzed. He opened it. A close-up of his own door handle, wet metal, droplets clinging. The clip ended just before the handle turned. He checked the timestamp 10 minutes from now. Part 6. What happens if he fails? Marcus understood enough to be afraid. It moved by wearing his admin tokens and whitelisted routes, hitching rides on emergency priority channels, and cached media. Every stored memory a possible anchor. He'd been refusing to sleep, replaying her messages, keeping the pathways open. Failure would not look like alarms or explosions. The city would keep running, just off true, obeying a logic he could no longer name until every system answered to it. He mapped it out on a holographic overlay of Stockholm. Emergency routing lines pulsed red. Surveillance nodes flickered. Fail-safe protocols. His protocols showed hairline fractures where anomalous packets rode priority lanes. Stockholm would not panic. It would decay quietly while something else wore its infrastructure like a raincoat. He watched the simulation grow distortion rings that rippled across the archipelago. Hospitals, transit, power modulation. Nothing would blow up. Everything would bend. He thought of Emma's laugh in those wrong order videos and realized the anomaly was learning what absence looked like and using it as camouflage. In the control room, the rain sound deepened, as if the city itself were buffering. He checked his phone. No new snaps. The silence felt worse. He knew the next one would not be a warning. It would be an arrival. Part 7. The Last Night. Rain fell hard over Gamla, a steady percussion that drowned sirens and made every alley sound occupied. Marcus left the control room a little after 2:30. He carried nothing but his phone and a keycard. He told himself he was going home to reclaim his space. He knew he was going because the anomaly wanted him there. He thought briefly about calling police, about handing the problem to anyone else. But he pictured the emergency network as a bloodstream already infected. Bringing them in would plug more veins into the thing. Containment meant going alone. Västerlånggatan was slick with reflections. Shop signs, tram lights, the skeletal outline of Storkyrkan in the distance. The snaps had stopped entirely. The absence was a tension wire. He checked the time, 2:41. He climbed the stairs to his building. The stairwell lights fluttered, casting frames like a stuttering camera. Wet footprints led upward, not his. Outside his apartment door, he paused, listening. Rain on the windows, a faint electrical buzz in the walls, and beneath it something like quiet breathing. He slid the key card. The lock clicked. Inside, the apartment held the damp chill of a place left alone too long. He sat on the edge of the bed, phone face down. He waited. The room smelled of dust and rain. Somewhere in the building, a pipe moaned. A snap arrived. He flipped the phone over. The thumbnail was dark, except for a faint glow at one edge. He opened it. The clip was taken from inside his apartment hallway. The camera stood at chest height, pointed toward his bedroom door. The door was closed. A single distant light glowed under the frame. The clip ended before anything moved. Marcus looked at his own door. The light under the frame matched. He realized he was watching the present from two perspectives, his own eyes and the anomaly's lens. He stood slowly. Another snap arrived. Part 8. The door. Another snap. The thumbnail was pure black. Marcus opened it. For one frame, the camera uncovered. He saw himself sitting on the bed, lit by the weak lamp near the window. The angle was from inside the room, from somewhere near the dresser. The door handle in the frame twitched. The clip ended. In the apartment, the real door handle twitched. Slowly, deliberately. Metal clicking against the latch in small, testing movements, like fingers learning how to grip. Rain whispered against the window in sync with each tiny rotation, as if counting down. Marcus's phone buzzed again. He did not look. He watched the handle descend, a bead of water traveling its length. He stood. His throat was dry. He knew there was no protocol for opening a door to an anomaly wearing his wife's data. The door eased inward. The hall beyond was darker than it should be. Moist air exhaled through the gap, carrying the smell of wet stone and cold electronics. The phone buzzed, insistent. He raised it and opened the new snap without thinking, desperate to see what was on the other side before it crossed into the room. The clip showed the door from the hallway side, lens close to the handle. As it turned, the camera angle tilted, as if whoever or whatever held it was pressing its ear against the wood. The final frame was a blur of motion and artifact, the camera lunging forward. In the real room, the door swung wider. Marcus saw a shape standing there that did not belong to any footage he had ever watched. Part 9. What he saw. In the doorway stood something assembled from compression artifacts and rain. Its edges jittered, dissolving into blocky pixel noise before resolving again. Faces flickered across its surface. Emma's eyes for an instant, then the blurred profile of a stranger from a surveillance feed, then the smudge of a passerby from a traffic cam. It was built from fragments of grief and cached footage, a mosaic of absence wearing human contours. It moved like video buffering, advance, freeze, catch up. When it inhaled, the room chilled as if the air was being pulled through a data center. Marcus saw reflections of himself on its surface, frames captured from every camera he had ever glanced at. The anomaly had learned what loss looked like to him and woven a body from it. The phone buzzed. He lowered his gaze. A new snap, unread. He opened it. The clip was 1 second long. His own face, eyes wide, a single tear mixing with rain on his cheek. Behind him in the frame, the silhouette loomed. The clip ended mid-breath. He understood then that the anomaly did not want to kill him. It wanted to incorporate him, to complete a model of a city's watcher wrapped around a city's grief. He stepped backward. The shape followed, its footfalls matching the rain's rhythm. The room seemed to narrow to a single vanishing point where the doorway met the world beyond. Marcus had one choice: contain it by letting it anchor on him, or sever the trust it used to move. He pictured Emma laughing at the kitchen table, tiles sunlit and wrong in the old snap. He made his choice fast enough that the system couldn't predict it. Part 10. After. Marcus is officially listed as deceased. Cause unknown. The report cites cardiac arrest in his apartment, discovered hours after a network outage that never appeared in public dashboards. Internally, the anomaly logs went silent at 3:07, phone found clutched in his hand, screen still glowing. In the weeks after the funeral, people in Gamla began receiving a single black snap just after midnight. No sender, no sound. Some opened it and saw nothing. Others swore they saw their own hallway, a light under their door, a faint reflection behind them. Support tickets piled up. Snapchat escalated to the city's incident team. Packet captures pointed back to Marcus's city-issued admin device and a private relay he maintained. Hundreds of scheduled messages, time-stamped over weeks, all addressed to himself. The thread had displayed them as, from Emma. Every location, every prediction, every frame of the shape in the doorway, all his. One city engineer reviewing forensic images from his relay found video files. Marcus filming empty alleys at 2 a.m., Marcus propping his phone on the dresser with a timer, Marcus standing in his own hallway holding the camera at chest height. Clips edited, spliced, scheduled to arrive minutes before he'd walk those same paths. The metadata showed he'd been doing this for weeks. What unsettled the investigators most was the timestamp on the earliest file. Marcus had begun recording the footage before the first snap ever arrived, during nights he later had no memory of. The relay he built sits on critical failover paths. Pulling it would crash half the city's emergency systems. His credentials remain active because no one dares remove them. The messages still send. Stockholm did not panic. The train still ran. The trams still chimed their low bells. The rain kept falling, washing the stones until the reflections blurred together. In the control room, Marcus's login remained active, sending its scheduled ghosts into the night. New midnight snaps now adapt to whoever opens them. On certain nights, when the rain hits the windows just right, someone standing alone on Västerlånggatan might hear a phone vibrate faintly and feel, for a second, that someone is standing behind them. And outside, rain keeps falling on stone that remembers everything.